This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so once again, a special thank you to Aaron and to Esther for the fresh, hot hummus breakfast along. And you come in person, so you get all these extra bonuses. Okay, Bamidbar is the fourth of the books of the Torah, and it's talking about that which took place Bamidbar, right? And after Vayikra, after Leviticus, after all the laws about the Mishkan and how all the service that was done there and the holidays, Vayikra was all about Kedusha, all about holiness. That includes holiness of the people, holiness of the place, holiness of time, right? We always work in those three realms. So we spoke about the Kohanim, their level of holiness, and the entire nation, Kedoshim Tiyu, that we're all adjured to be holy. There's Kedushat HaMakom, talking about the holiness of the place. That was the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, eventually became the temple, the Beit HaMikdash, and all the service, all the avoda that would take place over there. And there's Kedushat Hazman, the holiness of time. And that was Shabbat and all of the holidays. That's what the book of Vayikra basically encompassed. This is going to be talking about our sojourns in the Midbar. So famously, the Torah was given in the Midbar. Why is that so important? What would you say? Why is it so important that the Torah was given? The Midbar is in a desert. In a desert. Why is that so important that the Torah was given in a desert? Yes.
There's nothing in the desert.
And therefore,
So we can concentrate on what our job is of
okay,
getting
good,
holy.
good. Distractions, right? We live in a world of incredible amount of distractions, of never-ending distractions. And it's getting more and more distracting. It's getting worse and worse. I was listening on NPR's Driving Home last night, and they were having this show about what kids are bombarded with. And they were saying that kids are bombarded in such a way that certainly when I was growing up back in the 1800s, that was not the case at all, right? We didn't have this. We walked home from school. We were walking home from school with our friends, with our thoughts, right? Whereas now it is non-stop. It is actually non-stop. And Torah is all about this coming to this connection with God, this recognition that I am a creation, I have a creator, I was put here for a purpose. I wasn't just born, but God had a plan for me, and that's why I was born. And God has a daily plan for me, and that's why, thank God, each and every one of us woke up this morning because God has a plan for me. But it's so hard to focus on that when we are being constantly bombarded. I spoke to someone and he told me, this person is not observant, and he told me that he just had a thing. He went for a week without using with his phone off. He went for a week with his phone off, and for him that was such a healthy experience to not be, I mean, I think we all feel our phone vibrating even when it's not in our pocket. That's how we've gotten so plugged in to that. And I said to him, I said, as an observant person, I've got a built-in 27 hours a week where I'm away from my phone. And it's such a pleasure to have that time that you could just not just be present with where you are, with who you are, with who you're with, without having this constant bombarding. So the Torah was given Bamidbar. The Torah was given in a midbar. I had the privilege of traveling to the Sinai desert. This is when it was still part of Israel, right before the Camp David Accords, and before Sinai was given back in order to make that peace treaty with Egypt, which has been, is in my opinion, has been a good peace treaty. It's been a cold peace, but Israeli soldiers have not been killed along the Israel-Egypt border. So we'll take what we can get. If it's a warm peace, if it's a cold peace, it's a peace where Jewish lives are not being sacrificed. But I went to Sinai with the Sachnut when I was there post high school for a 5-day trip, and it was incredible, the absolute pristine, barren beauty. Right? Often you think barren and beauty don't go together, but it was this powerful, powerful experience of this pristine, barren beauty. And that's where Torah was given to us. And that is, to a certain degree, the space that we need to carve for ourselves in our lives in order for us to also receive the Torah, to at least carve that space, to have some time, some space, some solitude, some thinking time that we're not being bombarded. And like I told this young man that I spoke to, the 27 hours of Shabbat is a great starting point. And it's interesting. There are many families that now that I've gotten friendly with very often from her momentum trips. And many of them are not observant, but Friday night, it's no phones. Friday night, it's no phones, right? To try to carve that space where just be present, right? Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, love the one you're with, right? The rest of the lyrics are not so good. If you can't be the one you love the one. That's not so great. But be with the one that you're with, right? Where you are now, be present where you are. That is Bamidbar. Now, Bamidbar is also known as the book of, in English says, the book of Numbers, Chumash HaPekudim, because there is a tremendous amount of numbering that takes place throughout this Sefer, mostly in the beginning, right? Again towards the end, but it's known as Chumash HaPekudim. Chumash, the Chumash, the one of the 5 books of the Torah, HaPekudim of the counting. And it begins, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe, page 726, those who have a stone Chumash. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe, Hashem spoke to Moses, Bamidbar Sinai, in that Sinai desert. Ba'ol Moed, from the tent of meeting. The tent of meeting was the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And as we learned before, the voice of God would emanate from between the keruvim, from between those angel-like figures that were on top of the Aron, on top of the ark, which contained the luchot, contained the tablets, both the intact and the broken tablets were contained in that Aron, and it's from there that the voice of God would emanate. When is this? Be'echad, on the first day, l'chodesh hasheni, of the second month, b'shana hashenit, the second year, let's say tam me'eretz Mitzrayim, from our leaving the land of Egypt, saying, this is what God said. Now this is exactly 1 month, 30 days after the building of the Mishkan. And what does God say? Su'u et rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael. Su'u, the English says take a census of the rosh kol adat, the heads of kol adat, of the entire congregation of b'nei Yisrael, l'mishbechotam leveit avotam. This is a very famous pasuk that often gets quoted. The families by the house of their father. From here we learn out that the tribe is determined by the father. The religion, we learn elsewhere, is determined by the mom. The tribe is determined by the father. Bimispar shemot. Bimispar shemot. By the number of the names. Now that's very interesting. Number and names are often very contradictory. We know that during the Holocaust, the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, so one of the first things that they did to dehumanize us is we didn't have a name. What did we become? A number that was etched, tattooed onto us. So let's take a look at the first word for a moment, se'u, which English said take a census. But what does lasa'et mean? To lift up, right? Sorry, Dove? To carry, to lift up. In other words, the whole idea of taking this count is meant to be an uplifting experience. Whenever we're counting something, we're giving it importance. But how do we deal with mispar shemot? So, like we have a general rule: we don't count Jews, right? And King David, at a certain point, went against this, and it led to a plague that took place. We don't count. Why? Because when I'm counting someone, basically, oh, you're just a number. One. It's very, very finite. It's very limiting. This is all that you are. You're just a number. Again, in the Holocaust, they were just a number. That's what they were. Sorry? A name, a name is what a person's, as we discussed before in the book of Shemot, the book of exile and redemption, the book of Exodus. A name actually is all that potential that one has, all that which one can become. That's what a name. I'm an entity. I'm a person with unlimited potential, unlimited abilities, unlimited effect and influence I could have on the world. So even though it's mispar, it's a number, we have to keep in mind that it is b'mispar shemot, right? It is a group, right? We're getting a tally of individual, powerful world influencers, right? We live in a world of influence. Oh, he's an influencer. She's an influencer, right? What does that mean? Oh, because they wear this hat or they wear, right? That makes them an influencer, right? The real influencers are those who actually have an influence.
Very good. And I have, a lot of friends who are not Jewish, and I tell them, we talk about it, and I tell them, I'm sorry, I'm not frowning at, but I said, this is so goyish.
Yeah, right. For us, influencers are not that I'll get people to wear a certain hat or to use a certain deodorant, right? Or drink a certain drink. That's not influence of any substance, right? We need to be shemot. We need to be influencers in a serious manner, in a manner of meaning that's going to last. Let's take a look at the very first Rashi. Those who can follow in Rashi. B'midbar Sinai be'echad l'chodesh. In Midbar Sinai, on the first of the month. Rashi points out, mitoch chibatan lefanav. Because of our love before God, meaning because of the love that God has for us, Mone otam kol sa'a. we find God is counting us all the time. Right? When something's important to you, so you keep counting it. Kishiyotzu Mitzrayim. When we left Egypt, Mana'an, he counted us. Ukishinaflu be'egel. Well, we fell by the egel, by the golden calf. Mana'an. God counted us. Leidam minyan hanotarim. To know how many remained. And when he came, lahashrot shchinato aleihem. When he came to cause his divine presence to rest upon us, mana'am. Now he's counting us again. Be'echad b'Nisan, 1 month, 30 days prior, hu kama mishkan, the mishkan was established. Ube'echad b'Iyar mina'am. Thank you so much. Ube'echad b'Iyar, and on the first day, the shakshuka just came out. Listen. But I'm going to keep teaching. Don't worry. Ubechad b'Iyar, and on the first of Iyar, 1 month later, Mina'am. He counted us again. Shh, guys. So what is? I know it's hard to compete with shakshuka. So what is these ideas? First of all, we're compared to the stars. Rashi said elsewhere. Interesting. What's the idea of being compared to stars?
South African.
It says, I think well, I don't know where it is in Tanakh, but it says that Hashem counts and he numbers and names the stars. He knows each one by name.
Right. Good. So, and therefore what? What's the idea? Why compare us? So God numbers and names each star. Why compare us to stars? Esther?
To us, stars are infinite. There are so many, we can't count them. And they're bright. They emanate a glow from themselves.
Nice. Right. So stars, that's interesting. You look at the stars, you think, oh, there is an infinite amount of stars. But actually, each one, there is a very finite amount. And each one has its importance. Each one has its role. So too, we look at a large group. It's just a lot. No. Each one. Now, another idea about the star that Esther also mentioned is you look at a star and it's just a little twinkle out there, right? Actually, what is a star? It is the sun. It is a sun, or greater than the sun that we have as part of our solar system. So often, right, a person, just this person, that person. But then you get closer. You get to see, you get to understand this person. And you recognize how every human being is an olam bifnei atzmo, meaning is a world in and of itself. Each one is this brilliant light. Yes, Esther.
And as we understand it, the glow that we're seeing from stars, it's not immediate. It takes light years to reach us before we can perceive the light. And that's sometimes with human beings, like you were saying.
Oh, nice.
It takes a while to understand what a person has.
Yeah. Beautiful. Right. Most of the stars that we're looking at might no longer be in existence. Right. It's by the time their light reaches us, which is after how many light years of traveling, right? That's when the light reaches us. But it may no longer, right? That's just how far. So beautiful, right? Again, say it again, Esther. How did you put it?
So it takes a period of time for us to and even like the glow from Hazal, we're still reflecting in the glory of
beautiful. The teachings of the sages, the glow of Chazal, that it's still reaching us, right? It's still coming to us, even though they physically passed from the world so long ago. That's a beautiful illustration of that. Yes, Dov.
In Tehillim, what does it say? Hashem knows the name of every star.
Yes, yes. So these are three stages, though, that we were counted at. Leaving Egypt, golden calf, and the presence of God. And these are three super important stages of Klal Yisrael, of the Jewish people. And then we'll see how each of us in our own lives also have these stages, right? We're coming to the holiday of Shavuot next Thursday night, a week from this Thursday night. We'll be up all night. Those we won't be streaming, it'll be Yom Tov. We'll be up all night. Please come and join us. We have 48 questions of why. Why in Judaism do we do? And 48 of those. And over 30 people have signed up already to, I think there are like 4 or 5 slots left, but over 30 different presenters are going to be giving answers to these questions that they've been investigating. But we always say that a Jewish holiday, we're not simply commemorating, oh, that's what happened way back then, right? But it is always by Yamim Haim in those days, Bazman Hazeh, that this time is a time that is ripe for us. So if Shavuot is the time that we, the Mount Sinai experience that we receive the Torah, that means that each person on Shavuot night also receives their Torah. That is the time when we receive their Torah, right? We're not coming down a mountain, with the tablets, but it means our contribution to the spirituality of the world, those understandings of Torah, of these teachings that are unique to us, because since each one of us is unique with our own background, our own experiences, so therefore we perceive things in a unique fashion. So let's go through these first three, these stages when God counted the children of Israel and see how that applies to us. The first stage was the Exodus from Egypt. We went from a state of impurity to a state of purity. We left behind a certain environment that was so damaging and so harmful, and we broke out anew. That was the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt. But things invariably don't remain straight, right? No one's life trajectory is like this. Right? There are always going to be the ups and the downs, the times that we're motivated, the times that we feel running on empty, the times that we're ready to go, and there are the lulls. That's how everyone's life goes. Like an EKG, exactly.
Waves. Like the ocean, sometimes it's like so smooth.
Yeah.
You can see the beauty and blue.
Yeah, but then invariably it's waves. Good. Beautiful, beautiful. Victor mentioned the ocean, the beauty of the ocean with it can be flat, but then you have all those waves that we go through. We have our easy, more tranquil times and our more turbulent times in life. We all have this, right? And as Gabriella mentioned, an EKG, right, the heart monitor, if it looks like this, that's not a good sign, right? There needs to be. So we all have our trips. We all have our stumbles. And therefore, God counted us. So the first counting which was God showing his love for us, is when we took that step. We made that move. We had that transformation from Egypt to freedom. But then when we stumble, we wonder, how does God connect to me now? When I'm empty, when I'm not feeling it, when I've stumbled, when I've done things that I know I shouldn't have done, but I did it anyhow. That's Egel. That's the time of the golden calf. And what does God do at that time? God counts us. He lets us know, chiba, as Rashi said, mitoch chibatan, because of his love, he counts us. So therefore, even as we stumble, God has that love for us, demonstrated by his counting us at the time of the Chet Ha'egel. God created us as human beings. Human beings, we do some good and we do some bad. We do some smart things and we do some things that leave ourselves scratching our head, right? What was I thinking? And typically the answer is, I wasn't thinking. That was the problem. I was just acting and not thinking. But we need to know that at the time of the Egel, right after the Egel, what happens? God counted us. There is that chiba. And lastly, this third time over here, as the Shekhinah is resting upon us, as God's divine presence is now coming down into this world in a somewhat permanent manner until the destruction of the temple. But this was the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was a mobile Mount Sinai experience. That's what the Mishkan was. The tabernacle was taking that Sinai experience of God coming down and connecting, relating, and making that a mobile experience, that we leave the mountain behind, but we take the experience with us. As we mentioned before, that's why we don't give any importance to Mount Sinai. Right? Where is it now? We're not even sure. We gave it back to Egypt. Even when we had Sinai, do we know exactly which mountain was Mount Sinai? We think we have one. We designate that one, but we don't really know because it's not what happened there. It's what we take with us. It's the mobile Mount Sinai experience, which was the Mishkan, which became part of the Mishkan was the movable tabernacle through the desert. And then the first 400 plus years in Israel also was from place to place. But eventually it reached the Nachala, the Menucha, the resting place. That was in the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem. And that is permanent. Meaning, even today, with the destruction of the temple more than 2,000 years ago, we go to the Kotel. Not that the Kotel is the holiest place. The Kotel is the wall before the Kodesh Kadashim, the area of the Holy of Holies. That becomes permanent. So when God is coming now, step 3, to have his Shekhinah rest upon us, he does that, once again, he counts us. So that was historically. Now let's bring it into our own lives. Every single person has had their Yitziat Mitzrayim. Every single person has had their exodus from Egypt and many such experiences because none of us are static. We've all taken steps to try to be stronger, to try to be more connected, to try to be more spiritual, to try to connect to who we are as Jews. And we have to know that that's our Yitziat Mitzrayim, that's our exodus from Egypt moment. And we have to know and feel the chiba, the love of being counted at that moment. And every single one of us, with me in the lead, have had our stumbles, have had our mess ups, have had our screw ups, have had our times that things were bad. Either they were self-inflicted or they weren't self-inflicted. But we've all had our stumbles along the way. And at those times, like King David in Tehillim, Keli, Keli, lama azavtani, my God, why have you deserted me? King David says in Psalms and Tehillim. And that's how it feels. That is our Chet Ha'egel. That is our golden calf moment that we all have. And we have to know Chibatan. God is counting us at that time. God is with us at that time. A child that stumbles, so the parent is there to pick up the child, rooting for the child. Even more so, we discussed that Mishpatim, the Parsha that discussed all these different laws. It started off with the laws of an Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave. A Jewish slave is someone typically who stole, was unable to pay back, and therefore will have this limited duration slavery in order to pay back the person from whom he stole. And we start all of our laws, all of our civil laws with that. Why? Because a parent cares, it worries the most about the child that is struggling the most. So we have to know when we have our second stage, we have our chet ha'egel, our stumble moments, chibatan. God is counting us there. And lastly, when we have our Hashra'at Hashchina. What is Hashra'at Hashchina? Bringing God's presence into this world. That was the third stage here. A month after we've been established with the Mishkan, with the tabernacle, bringing God's presence into this world. What does God do? God counts us. And we have to know, this goes back to being counted, the stars. Each of us, every single person, every single day, we have the potential to bring God's presence into this world. We can create Hashra'at Hashchina. We can create God's presence coming down and resting in this world. How do we create that? By the way we speak to one another, the way we think about one another, by the mitzvot that we do, by the prayers that we do, by the acts of kindness that we do. And we have to realize, like that star that has this incredible, incredible brilliance, that is what every single person can be. And God is counting us. And I would even say God is counting on us. Not just counting us, He's counting on us for us to do as much as we can. And everyone, we wash our hands in a ritual manner in the morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of the reasons why we wash our hands in the morning is because just like the Kohen, just like the priests in the temple, when they would go to do the daily avoda, the daily service in the temple, what would they need to do? They would need to wash their hands. When we wake up in the morning, we wash our hands. Why? Because we're about to enter our temple and do our service. What is our temple? Good morning. Good morning, spouse, children, friends, co-workers, whatever it is, whatever our world is, that is our temple. How are we going to deal with all the individuals, all the situations that we are confronted with? That is our Beit HaMikdash. We are like the Kohen in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple. This is our temple, all of our interactions, all of our dealings. We go to work. What type of honest work are we putting in? Every aspect of our day, from the time we awake until the time we go to sleep, is our temple. It's our Beit HaMikdash. And we have the ability to bring God, to do the Hashra'at Hashchina, to bring God's presence into this world. That is our gift. That is our opportunity. That is our responsibility with all of our interactions. And it's something to think about. How can I make this meaningful? How can I make this a little bit better? We're responding in a text. What can I add to that text that will add a little bit more? How can I make this just a little bit more? Adam, the name for humankind is Adam, spelled Aleph, Dalid, Mem. Those same letters spell the word Ma'od. What does Ma'od mean? Very. We are created as very beings, meaning we're meant to be very. We're meant to take every situation and try and think, how can I make this ma'od? How can I make this vary? How could I add to this? And that is the third counting that we have of the Hashwa'at Hashchina that takes place. Now, you might say, Mi ani, who am I? What can I do? There's a very, very interesting idea. Take a look on page 731 in our Chumashim. 731. Here we're listing the numbers of each of the tribes. Let's take a look on, so Perek Aleph, chapter 1, verse 38. Livnei Dan, the children of Dan, Toldotam, Lemishpichotam, Lebeit Avotam, their offspring according to their families, according to their father's household. V'mispar Shmeinot, Miben Esrim Shana, 20 years and up. How many were they? Shnayim v'shishim elef ushva me'ot. 62,700. The tribe of Dan was 62,700. Let's look above that. One pasuk. Binyamin, the tribe of Benjamin. How big was the tribe of Benjamin? Chamisha ushloshim elef v'arba me'ot. 35,400. Less than half the size. The tribe of Benjamin was less than 50% of the size of the tribe of Dan. Okay, it happens. Some people have big families, some people have smaller families, right? You know, I had relatives in Meir Sha'arim, right, who had 10 children, right? Each of their kids had about 10 children. So that's what's going to happen, right? On a family who has 1 or 2 children, each of whom has 1 or 2 children, so they've got 100 grandchildren and they've got 5 grandchildren. Take it a few generations and yeah, easily. But what's very, very strange is, hold the place here and look back to page 258. 258, we're going back into the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, and we're in the Parsha of Vayigash. This is when Yosef revealed his identity to his brothers. Once he revealed his identity, what's going to happen? They're going to then let father know, let Jacob, Yaakov know, Yosef, oh Yosef, Chai, Yosef is alive, Joseph is alive, come down to Egypt in order to be protected from the ill effects of the famine that was going on, which is what brought Joseph's brothers down to Egypt in the first place, to buy food. And then they all go down to Egypt. The whole family moves down. Page 258. Make that page 260. Verse 21. Ubenei Binyamin. Let's see how many kids Benjamin had. Benjamin, who came in at 35,400. How many kids did he have? Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Echi, Varosh, Mupim, Chupim, Va'ard. 10 sons. Let's see the next pasuk, which I believe, or 2 psukim ahead, I believe it's the shortest pasuk of the entire Torah. Uvenei Dan, and the sons of Dan, Chushin. Dan had 1. Dan had 1 child. Dan, the tribe which became the 62,000. I'm sorry, I was thinking 72,000. It's more than 50%. My mistake. My math is off. But quite much larger, 62,700, all came from one child, Hushim. And what do we know about that one child? Hushim was deaf. Hushim was limited. Hushim was, we would say, special needs. How do we know Hushim was special needs? Well, there's a medrash that tells us that when the sons were taking Jacob to be buried in Marat HaMachpelah, when they're taking him to the tomb of the patriarchs, Esav came and said, "What's going on over here?" They said, "We're burying Jacob." He said, "Well, I'm the firstborn, and there's only one spot left. Abram's buried there. Yitzchak, Isaac is buried there. There's one spot left for the sons of Isaac. 2 sons, myself and Jacob. That's my spot." They said, "No. You sold this to Jacob. It's to our father Jacob. It's his now." "Yeah, prove it." "Well, we have the document." "Well, where's the document?" "The document's in Egypt." "Okay, so bring the document." So they sent Naphtali to start running to go get that document. Hushim was deaf or very hard of hearing. He's not following all that's going on over here. He says, "What's going on? What's holding things up?" They said, "Oh, you have to understand. Esav made this claim. We counterclaimed. Esav said, prove it. We have to prove it. We're sending Naphtali back to Egypt. He's a fast runner. Back to Egypt. He'll get the document. He'll come back afterwards." Hushim says, "My grandfather, Jacob, Yaakov, is going to be lying here in this non-dignified state of a person waiting to be buried until Naphtali goes and runs back to Egypt and comes back? Absolutely not." He took out a sword. Esav's head was no longer attached to Esav's body. Yaakov was buried in Marat HaMachpelah, as was Esav's head. So the Bali Musa, the ethicists, learn out from this how we could sometimes get used to something even though we shouldn't get used to it. The brothers also didn't want Yaakov to be lying there in this undignified state, but they got used to it. He made this claim, counterclaim, yeah, but this, how about that? And before you know it, look what they grew accustomed to. Hushim was not going to grow accustomed to that because he wasn't following all of the give and take, and therefore he reacted. But what do we see? Hushim was special needs. Hushim was somewhat limited in his capabilities. And out from this Hushim ben Dan, this one child with limited abilities, came out 62,700 members of the tribe of Dan. Out from Benjamin's 10 sons, came out 35,400, which lets us know, we're talking about before, that each person can bring down the Shekhinah, each person can make a difference in the world. We can never, ever think about anyone else. That person, let me just dismiss that person. That person doesn't really, can't really. Or even more destructively, to think about ourselves. Oh, how much can I do? What difference can I make? Look what came from this Hushim ben Dan. And then it continues, because after this, if you go to page 738, the tribe of Levi, back to us, 738, back to Bamidbar. The tribe of Levi, the Levite tribe, was not counted amongst everyone else. They were not counted amongst everyone else. Everyone else was counted from age 20 and up. They were counted from 1 month old and up. So you would imagine, if we're counting a tribe not from 20 and older, from 1 month and older, that tribe will be that much bigger. Let's take a look at what happens at 738. That's Perek Gimel, chapter 3, verse 15. To code, God tells Moshe, count B'nai Levi according to their house of their fathers, their families, right? Mi ben chodesh v'mala, a month up. And Moshe did that. The 3 sons, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. And you do the tally. Let's see. The first one was 7,500, one of the 3 sons. The next one was 7,500. Next one was 8,600, bringing us to 16,100. And the last one, we're at 16,001, is 6,200. We're at 22,300. So this whole tribe of Levi, when we're counting them from 1 month and up, it should have been that much larger. This whole tribe of Levi, counting an added 20 years of people, right? All those under, right, 19 years, 11 months that were added to the tally, yet they're only a total of 22,300. All the other tribes were much larger. Why would that be? And to make it worse, a famous question that's asked when we're studying through the book of Shemot, Exodus, if we were enslaved, how are Moses and Aaron, how are Moshe and Aaron having this free walk, speak to Paro, back to the people? If they're enslaved, then how are Moshe and Aaron having this mobility, this freedom of movement? But then he's back. Now he's back. That's not going to give him a freebie forever. On the contrary, you flee and then you come back, you'll be oppressed that much more.
Tribe of Levi did not.
The tribe of Levi was not included in the servitude. Right? We saw earlier on by Joseph in Egypt that when everyone is selling all that they have, well, the priests of Egypt had an exemption, had a pass. That exemption, that clergy exemption that existed in Egypt, that extended even to the clergy of the children of Israel. The tribe of Levi was exempt. So 1 second, you're telling me now that makes it worse, not better. So they were not being persecuted. They were not being tortured. They were not being oppressed. They were not being enslaved. What should have happened? That tribe should have been that much greater, that much more numerous. And here we are counting them not from age 20, but including all 8 up to all those younger than 20. And we have a tally of 22,300. So take a look on page 294. Levim don't have restrictions. Oh, only Kohanim have, which is a small percentage of the tribe of Levi. This is going back to Shemot, page 294. Shemot, Exodus, chapter 1, verse 11. Vayasimu alav sarei misim. The Pharaoh appointed over them taskmasters, Laman anoto b'sivlotam, to afflict us with their burdens. And we built these Ari Miskanot, these storage cities for Pharaoh, at Pitom, at Ramses. The kasher ya'anu oto, kain yirbeh, v'chein yifrotz. The more they afflicted us, the more we multiplied. Rashi says, the Medrash says, the heavenly voice came out, and you said, Pen Yerbeh? Your motive, Pharaoh, was lest they will increase. Guess what? Cain Yerbeh. The more you afflict them, the more they will multiply. Once again, we see the same idea. Ramban points this out, right? That the normal flow is not what happens. Certainly when it comes to the children of Israel, the nation of Israel, the normal flow, what we would expect to be, is not what happens. We're not working within this normal, natural realm and plane. You can have this one son, this one special needs son of Dan, becoming 62,000. You could have the 10 sons of Binyamin, 35,000. You could have those who are oppressed, waxing great. Those who are sitting comfortably, not. Never, never write off any person, as Esther said before, like a star. You might think this is but you get closer. It might take a while for you to appreciate, but there's a tremendous amount that every person brings to the table. We say famously in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, who is a chacham, who's a wise person? Halomed mikol Adam, someone who learns from everyone. Do not discount any other person. Most importantly, never discount yourself, and recognize the third counting, just how much Shekhinah, how much divine presence each and every person, most importantly yourself, can bring down to the world. It doesn't need to be with these majestic, I'm going to become the next Jordan Peterson, is that his name? The next Jordan, right? No.
What is his area?
He's psychology, but ideas for the world, right? It can be within our own little Beit HaMikdash that we wash our hands in the morning for, within our own little world, our family, our circle of friends, our circle of influence, the people we meet online, checking out of Wholesome Choice, all right, wherever it is, wherever we are in our little world, that's what we are meant to impact. And that is the chiba, the love that Hashem showed us. And that's why we have a whole book, a whole sefer of the Torah titled Counting, Chumash HaPekudim. And certainly as we are counting up to Shavuot, making each day count, we have to make sure that we ourselves are counted, are counting, and not discounted, Dove. Right? No discounts over here, right? But we have to make sure that we do as much as we can.
Rabbi, could you
Yes.
re-sum up the 3 stages in the associated?
Yes, the 3 stages was God counted us when we left Egypt. That's when we made a transition in our life from impurity to purity. God counted us, right? And each of us have taken such steps. God counted us when we, by the sin of the golden calf, even after we stumbled, God showed the love he shows us by the counting. And each of us, myself in the lead, stumble quite often. And we have to know that Hashem still has that chiba for us. And the third period was in our Parsha, when the Shekhinah has come to rest amongst us, and God counts us and looks to us for us to play our role in bringing God's Shekhinah, God's presence, into this world.
And what were the names?
Yitziat Mitzrayim, Exodus, Chet HaEgel, sin of the golden calf, Hashra'at Shekhinah, the resting of the divine presence upon us.
And then what's the difference between China and Achava? You know, you said that
Oh, Ahava is love, Chiba is a affection, an affinity, an endearment, an endearment. Chiba yetera. Yeah. In this case, that's interesting. The Malbim, one of the great commentators on Navi, so he'll often bring two words that are somewhat synonymous or seemingly synonymous, and then he'll let you know the nuanced difference between them, between chiba and ahava. I'm not sure, Janet. Right when we use, well, it could be ahava is more of the verb. Chiba is the result, right? 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 I love you, right? I feel chiba towards you. I think one is more of a verb and one is more of a noun. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's an interesting
You
thing.
said it's Harashat, the last day.
Hashraat
Hashraat.
Shechina.
Shechina.
Yes. Very good.
I think that Hibah has more thought going into it.
Sorry,
Ava is abstract. I just love you because
Mhm.
you're my child, my
So
friend.
one is more of
Is more
a
dark.
blind.
Hibah is driven after we probably have a little bit of history, and I have a reason to love you.
Interesting. Interesting. Could be. Interesting. And once again, a thank you to Aaron and Esther for the shakshuka and the hummus and the amazing, amazing breakfast. Okay, good seeing everybody. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Bye
And
bye.
be well, everybody. Good. Those who like to join
Bye.
tonight at 8 o'clock, we have the Jewish Journey. Thursday, 12:30, we have our lunch and learn for Yom Yerushalayim, for Jerusalem Day and the role that Jerusalem plays in Judaism. Okay. Be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Those Jewish Journey, it's most